Well, hello again to all of you lovely people and who you want to be. My name is Sam and I welcome you to the latest edition of Weird Mind Newsroom, where for this week we are once again delving into the massive amount of new releases, trailers and news stories that you may have missed from the past week and got them all here for you to catch up on. So let's not waste too much time on introductions, let's get talking all things media that came out for this week. Now, the first of the new releases is the focus of a novel into film, as it's the sort of novel that fits into the time frame of the overarching week itself. But in this case, it has been a version that's caused quite a divide from casting and all other things, but maybe the case that the focus is what you may see as love and some sense of passion could mean something completely different to someone else. As with the release of Emerald Fell's long-awaited take on the acclaimed novel of Wuthering Heights. And the film will be based on the novel that will tell a gothic-like psychological drama where tragedy will strike when Heathcliff, played by Jacob Elordi, falls in love with Catherine Earnshaw, played by Margot Robbie, a woman from a wealthy family in 18th century England, and soon a steamy romance of passion will soon begin to take shape. Reception on this film has been seen, as I mentioned, a bit of a mixed or divisive take on the story, as while not most praise seems to be on the cinematography and in some sense the performances of the two leads, the film has been critiqued on really being a self-interpretation by the director when they were younger, and not even the full novel at that. The characters themselves are not how they are really supposed to be portrayed in the book. It's somewhat misinterpreted, very steamy and sexual when it seems to lack the focus, and a sense of the divide as well with the marketing and the use of the soundtrack done fully by Charlie XCX that personally I really have no idea how the tone fits into the narrative itself. But you'll look past that and some see it as a masterpiece, but if you want to see it for yourself, make your own decisions, you can catch the new film out now in cinemas. Our second release of the week in particular has a very strong animation release focus for this week in instance, and we start off with a new sports-based narrative in the way that when things seem much more challenging and probably told your whole life that you were not amount to nothing, no matter what they think, it is always important to dream big, as we have the release of the all-new animated sports story from Sony Animation with Goat. The film will focus on an animal-based world society and will follow Will, played by Caleb McLaughlin, a small goat with big dreams who gets a once-in-a-lifetime shot to join the pros and play Roarball, a high-intensity co-ed full-contact sport dominated by the fastest, fiercest animals in the world. His new teammates aren't thrilled about having a little goat on their roster, but Will is determined to revolutionize the sport and prove once and for all that smalls can ball. Now, reception of this new film seems to be a lot more well-received, with praise in the visual animation style that Sony has been testing a lot with their films of recent appeal, the appealing voice cast, and the film is the usual by the number sports-based underdog type story in terms of the narrative. Now, I did see this myself and I enjoyed my time with it. I've been agreeing the animation voice cast being appealing, and I don't mind the story. Most of the shows I have mainly is some of the jokes were hit or miss, and I felt for a lot of the time its pacing was a little bit too quick in a lot of ways. Also in this case, in my opinion, the film did the dream big concept much better than Mario Supreme and gave Caleb McLaughlin more to do in this than Stranger Things, but I will say it's a good time for the family and for entertainment value. And if you want to check it out for yourself, it is also available to catch out now in cinemas. As for our third film of the week, it's time to head out and focus a bit of a thriller narrative that will see a plan, a crew, an execution, and an unrelenting amount of the law raining down on them to take them down, as it's time for a simple and effective crime thriller to grace our screens as we have the release of the new film of Crime 101. And the new film will follow the workings of an elusive thief played by Chris Hemsworth, who is eyeing his final score, soon encounters the disillusioned insurance broker played by Halle Berry at her own crossroads. As their paths intertwine, a relentless detective played by Mark Ruffalo trails them, hoping to thwart the multi-million-dollar heist that they are planning. Now, reception on this new film has seen some very strong reception praise in the simple but entertaining narrative, appealing performances with strong praise to Hemsworth's character, and for being a surprise entertaining film to come out of nowhere in the early stages of the year. And we're up for the heist. The plan is to go when it releases out now in cinemas. Now, our fourth film that's in focus of the week, I would like to preface that this one, yes, this film did come out in the States already a year ago. However, it has taken a while for this film to get a distribution over where I'm from until just a few weeks ago, and now finally it arrived, and things in all sense of the word are really about to get crazy, wacky, and overall loony. As for the first time in their near 100-year history, we have the release of the first fully 2D animated adventure with The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. Now, the plot will follow Daffy Duck and Porky Pig, voiced by Eric Bowser, who after a series of antics will occur at their new job at the bubblegum factory, both will discover a secret alien plot to take over the Earth via mind control. Soon it will be up to the duo as well as Petunia Pig to work together to stop the invaders while also trying to not drive each other insane in the process. Reception on this film has then and now are still very well received, with praise on the appealing animation style, a simple but fun and goofy plot, and the focus of two of the tune's most iconic characters and their dynamic across this madcap sci-fi caper. Fever. And if you're up for some wackiness, then you can catch this film out now in cinemas over here, while it may be available on streaming or physical media in other parts of the world. For the final film of this week is giving us a little bit of an award season release that will bring us something with a sense of wonder, magic, and a lot of charm, and will provide that sense of whimsy, no matter the weather, as we have the release of the new award-nominated animated film of Little Amelie, or the Character of Rain. The film follows the titular Amelie, a Belgian girl that was born in Japan that seems to have some sense of a secret power. Thanks to her friend Nishio-san, the world is full of adventure and discovery, and on her 3rd birthday, an event will soon change the course of her life. Now, the film itself has seen some very strong reception, with praise on its beautiful 2D animation style, its narrative and themes about the fragility of early childhood, and being of last year's best animated and films in general. If you want to check it out for yourself, you can catch the new film in cinemas in both subbed and dubbed versions. As on the games of this week, the first one will see us hitting the courts across some very strange and colourful terrain, which may seem like it would be a bit of an uneven terrain to do so, but this is in the Mushroom Kingdom, where the concept of this is about to reach a strong sense of fever going around, as the iconic mustachioed plumber is hitting the courts for his new friendly and competitive game with the release of the new entry of this sports series with Mario Tennis Fever. Now, the new game will see you take on Mario, Peach, Luigi, and a whole roster of characters across this series as you compete in some extreme levels of high-powered tennis matches with new abilities and rackets to choose from, and from across a new single-player narrative that will see Mario and the gang get hit with a strange curse that turns them back into babies, must find a way to shrew the power of tennis to change them back and resolve tennis fever. Now, reception of this new game has seen some mixed to modest reception, with praise in the gameplay, the online functionalities, as well as roster choice, though some of the main game narratives a little hit or miss to some that have played the title, but may have its appeal over time. If you want to hit the courts for a game or two, you can play this title out now on the Switch too. The second game for this week is seeing us making a journey to the realm of some horrors, as we are heading to a new creation by the studio that knows their share of a journey that seems like a setting that is massive in scope, but with your character's size, the horrors are truly nightmaric, that await are about to be gargantuan. As with the release of the new horror from the Tazir Studios, the company behind the first 2 Little Nightmare series, with the new title of Reanimal. In the game, we'll see you play as a brother and sister duo who will try and find a way to escape a hellish version of their old home, and must find a way to escape from the town, as well as explore in a non-linear way in order to rescue their friends and get out alive and survive against twisted humans and demonic animal-based creatures that lurk around every corner and under every surface. The reception of this new horror title has seen a lot of strong praise. Reception will appeal towards the atmosphere, its horror, narrative, and gameplay mechanics, with some critiques being the load times on some systems, some items being difficult to really see, and the game length being a little too short for some critics. But it's a welcome return for this type of game itself, and may appeal to those that were underwhelmed by the recent Little Nightmares. And if you're up for some new horrors, you can play it now on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Switch 2, and PC. And our last of new releases is seeing us return to a bit of a cosmic and goofy adventure with strange creatures, radical worlds, and the armada of weapons at your disposal that will belittle you and mock you on this new journey, though it may be with a new voice change, as it's time for a return to this oddity adventure, as we have the release of the sequel to High on Life. Then the game will continue from the events of the original title, and we'll see the original protagonist becoming a very successful bounty hunter after saving humanity in the first game. However, an evil pharmaceutical conglomerate kidnaps their sister Lizzie, and the character will soon seek to take them down. Now, reception of this follow-up seems to be a bit more mixed to modest at best, with praise in the visual aesthetic, humor, bosses, and some new unique weapon features. Though some critiques are mainly aimed at the underwhelming narrative, the gunplay being a little bit hit or miss, and the game with a fair amount of technical issues. That's kind of expected with most games these days. But if you want to head on this cosmic adventure, then you can play it now on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC, with a Switch 2 version releasing on April 20th. And with that regards now, that's all the new releases that we do have for this week.
What a beautiful painting. I love the use of purple.
Now, on our first trailer of the week, it's time we head off once again to the cosmos for some new sense of when the world and the universe is on the verge of collapse and disaster is waiting to happen. When all hope seems to lost, it will take one man to provide a miracle to save the day, even if they may seem like they're not the most qualified for the mission. As we have the release of the final trailer for the upcoming adaptation of the acclaimed novel of Project Hail Mary. Then the film will follow Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling, a school professor who awakens on a spacecraft with no memory of himself or of his mission. When his memory slowly returns, he deduces that he is the sole survivor of a crew sent to the Tau Ceti solar system in search of a solution of a soon-to-be catastrophic event heading for Earth. Now in search of answers, he may soon rely on his vast array of scientific knowledge, sheer ingenuity, and human will, but he may soon realize that he will have not to do this search alone. So it's been a case that I have meant to, in most cases, read the novel that's based on. Someone has specified to me that from the looks of the footage and everything shown, the film may be differing a fair bit from the novel, and the sense of uncertainty seems a little lost, but I'm sure I'll give it a proper read. And for me personally, I've been impressed with what's been shown in this, sense of humor and look at visuals that I feel that Lord & Miller may have an appeal with. And personally, I always enjoy a Lord & Miller production, their unique styles and stuff. And one that I've heard from early test screenings and viewings, it seems as a masterpiece already labelled as it is, and I will give my hopes it will be a success and look forward to checking this out when the film releases in about a month's time from the 20th of March. Now on our second trailer this week, and the second one to come to us from the Super Bowl as well. It was a very quiet Super Bowl this year. It's a return to a series that you may think that may have been very quiet in giving marketing for, since the first two of this series are being marketed for about a year or so before eventual release, but I'm sure it will be pick up once the huge gaming IP they are making is out of the world. And it's time for something on a bit of a Titan-based scale to occur, and it may be caused by an army of indestructible creatures and followers of all things evil, as the series is back once again, as we have the first trailer for the third entry of the Minions film series with Minions and Monsters. Set as a prequel to the original Despicable Me series and the first two Minions films, the new entry will see Minions in 1920s Hollywood, with some Minions of James, Henry, and Ed looking to get into the industry and create their own monster film. Through the power of some spiritual incantation, they summon a small form of Cthulhu, who will help them to find some real monsters for their monster movie, and I'm sure everything will work out in the process, right? So the case of this franchise, Despicable Me and Minions, really has been one that has its share of ups and downs. If you've seen my review of the last Despicable Me movie, you know I was a bit disappointed in that one, as I felt that we took some planned TV series of the franchise and got like a few random episodes and smushed them together into a full film that don't always fully connect. Where I said the comparison of the first two entries of that the series was classics, the first Minions was a lot to manage, and the sequel was better, and this one's from the outset does not sound too bad. It could have some appeal of the realm of Hollywood film and stuff. Now, this film has also really caused some drama online, mainly to do with the changing of the main Minions. As the last two were focus of Kevin, Stewart, and Bob, but now we have James, Henry, and Ed, which just make me realize that all the Minions seem to be male. I may not be happy about it, but I'm sure we will deal with the issue from that one and will be well fixed in the next entry, but I guess we will see, and I'll give this a chance when it does release, when the film is unleashed in the cinemas from the 1st of July. So this one will technically go against my rule, as it sits under the time length for a trailer to focus on, but in this case again, like the one I did a few weeks ago, I will make an exception just for this one instance, that I forgot it was planned to be coming out, and as the follow to an acclaimed director's first film entry, as it's time for the stuntman to get a focus of what happened after the crazy events of the end of the original movie. As we got a surprise trailer teaser at the Super Bowl for the upcoming sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with the adventures of Cliff Booth. Now, while plot details have not been fully given, the film is set around a decade after the events of the Tarantino film, and will follow Cliff Booth, played by Brad Pitt, a former stuntman for Rick Dalton, who after saving his life from some of the Manson cult, turns into a Hollywood studio fixer. Now working in the shadows, he will soon handle the industry's darkest secrets, from scandals to blackmail, and showcase a more grittier side to Hollywood's golden era. So I will say, truth be told, that looking back on the original film, it's kind of underwhelmed in the picture in some capacities. There's some sense of ideas that things were a lot more bigger in aspect, but it was not fully planned out fully. But that's just me, and may need to give it another proper watch at some point. But I feel if anything, I did like the characters and focus in the movie, especially Booth, and I feel this could have some appeal of giving a focus to the stuntman to help get the job done, and from the small teaser, it's given me the vibe towards another film of like The Nice Guys from a decade ago, and I hope it has that sense of appeal, as that film was very entertaining. But I guess we'll see in due time. Now, there's no confirmed release date as of yet, but it's set to be confirmed for release some point later this year on Netflix, but likely maybe a limited cinema release at some point, but I guess we shall see. And our final trailer that we have for this week is taking us back to the pages of some comic books, and in the realm of being the first of the branching stories to come from the acclaimed duo and soon trilogy of animated stories based on one of the most famous characters in comics. As we have seen the aesthetic of this portrayal of the character in the original entry, we are getting more of a focus to their backstory and a more of a setting in his time, as we've been given a pair of trailers with much difference in being and color grading for the new series based on Spider-Man Noir. And the series will follow Ben Reilly, played by Nicolas Cage, returning his role from the Into the Spider-Verse, an aged down on his luck private investigator who grapples with his past as the only superhero in the 1930s New York known as the Spider. Soon, when an unexpected case comes his way, he will soon have to don the mask once more and become the Spider once again to help to save the city from some powerful new threats. If I can say anything about this series in general, was initially I was thinking this was going to be a bit ambitious, as while I love the portrayal of his character in the first Spider-Verse film, and when I heard about this project I was very interested, and for a while it was quiet. Then there was a report of internal issues at the studio being made around a little after the third Spider-Verse film was delayed, but it turned around when the first look images of the suit and the whole aesthetic was released, and the tone and look of it all looks proper great. I'm interested in getting more of the character, and for it being a bit of a different portrayal of the character that we have been getting all the time, and I'm very excited for it. And thankfully, we're not too far from release either, as the series will be swinging onto Amazon Prime in color or black and white formats from the 27th of May. And with all that regards, that's all the trailers that we have for this week.
Zeus! Your Your son has returned.
So it's another week of starting off the news section with a focus of another direct presentation of the video game studios. But this week we're heading over to the Sony for their first state of play for this year, and it seems with this presentation that if you were underwhelmed by Nintendo One, then you may be more interested in this outcome, as it's had some titles to show off with this, with just over 30 titles to focus on, from some new looks to project announcements that we were not expecting or hoping for, and I'll be delving into the focus of what we expect over these next few months or year or so. So let's begin. And we start the presentation with something that was a bit of a surprise, as we got the announcement of a sequel to a 2021 sleeper hit of Kenya, with the unveiling of Kenya Scars of Cosmora, that will see the main lead return being much older and wiser on a big journey across vast land and locations, fighting dangerous creatures and finding special spirit allies on their journey to learn of some ancient secrets. Just look really nice and entertaining of a tile. I'll need to give that first entry a proper play at some point, and do so before the game releases sometime later this year. Next up then, we return to the ancient times and lands of Yotai, as recent Ghost tile has unveiled a new look at the Yotai DLC of Legends that will see you and others in an online setting go up against some of the nightmare worlds and variations of the Yotai 6 from the main game. And it looks like it could be an exhilarating experience with this DLC releasing for free on the 10th of March. Then one of the big games of last year has got a bit of a new edition on the way, as it was announced that the Death Stranding 2 on the beach will be making its way to PC with functions of high fidelity, a new way to play beloved entries from last year with options of PS5 DualSense functionality. I'm sure it'll be well for play, and will probably be modded to hell quick enough afterwards when it releases on PC from the 19th of March. Then one of the head of the next game has come along, given a new depth in focus on their title of For Loop that will see you team up with a group of allies. You take on the most powerful dangerous adversaries and alien invaders that will see you die and fail to learn and strategize to save the day, and it seems like it has the potential being fun when given a chance. While no official release date has been given, there is talks of a sign up for a closed beta on the website that may be worth a try when it does launch, but I'll keep an eye on when it does. Then one of the titles that was shown in last week's Direct was given another new look in this state of play, and that was with the focus of the title of Pragmata, with it showing some elements of the world that you will explore of this twisted version like Manhattan on this massive space station, and get a bit more of the focus of the bond between our two main leads. It seems to have some appeal, and all the footage I've seen so far of this game has appealed to me a lot so far. I'll be well worth a look into when this game comes out on the 24th of April. We were then treated to what I see as the final trailer for the 9th entry of Resident Evil with Requiem that gives us more of an insight into the setting, character focus, and reason for, and some of the stakes that are raised for this follow-up. And while I'm still very excited, there was a part of me that felt this may have been a bit too much shown at this event, particularly with this trailer, but I may be overthinking it. But maybe the best to keep it as such, but either way, I'm still very excited for this game coming out on the 27th of February. We then got what seems to be the only mention of a remaster in the state of play was with the third title of the Legacy of Kings series with the entry of Defiance, with it getting a focus of a new and improved follow-up to the recent new entries with improved visuals and frame rates. I'll also come with a demo for a fourth entry that never fully materialized, which sounds like quite an offer to see of what they could have once been, but I guess be well worth a try when the title releases from the 3rd of March. We then got a little bit of an anime-based focus for a few of these next ones, and the first one gave a new look at an entry of Bridge 9 with the title of Abyss that will see you take on the role of 6 heroes and strategists to do better against a powerful regime and restore back to harmony that I'm sure will have some appeal to the fans of the series and could have some appeal with this title dropping sometime later this year. Then moving on to the next title shown off was with some focus of a few series celebrating its big 30th anniversary of this Direct. And this was the first given some new focus and unveiling that the 6th entry of the Dead or Alive franchise, the fighting one, not the beach volleyball one, will be dropping on this way onto the system for more all-out brawls, with the support of the title hitting the PS5 on June 25th. But it wasn't the last of the series to focus on, given the case that it is celebrating its 30th anniversary, and while nothing was majorly shown, they also confirmed a new entry of the series was now currently in development with no set planned release date in mind as of yet, but I'm sure we'll get an idea of release within the next year or so, but stay tuned for more on that. Then next we were taking a trip over to the award-winning studio of Remedy, as we were talking about a surprise announced sequel with some gameplay to the sequel of Control with Resonant that will see you traveling across a twisted and warped form of some bustling metropolis, I'm guessing Manhattan or something, to battle sinister and corrupted forces and contain any disruptive anomalies, and looks very ambitious and visually a sight to behold, and I'm sure maybe another award-winning contender when this title releases sometime later this year. Another one initially I thought was a new entry of the Doom series. We were actually given a new look and announcement of a title known as Crimson Moon. They'll have you play as a form of knights as you take on some dangerous, deadly, and corrupt creatures and beings in this gothic land and setting. Even if it's not the series I was initially thinking, the aesthetic has been something that I may give a go at, and it has some appeal, well for play when it releases sometime later in the year. Then from the studio that is often known for the creation of one of the biggest gaming and card franchises of Pokemon, of Game Freak, has come along and provided us a new look at their new title of Beast of Reincarnation that will see you take on the role of a young female warrior who, aided by her floral wolf creature, will travel across some visually splendid lands and and fight against some very powerful and visually striking monsters and creatures, and I feel for certain that it will have some appeal of showing that the studio can show their unique work and effort could put something into the likes of a new entry of this series of pocket monsters. We go out for a try when this title releases on the 4th of August of this year. Now for the second of the 30th anniversary announcements titles, there's one series that I felt hoped more than anything would get a new entry, but I guess we'll have to do with this outcome of the option provided, as we got the unveiling of the 30th anniversary edition of the original entry of the Rayman series that will bring an all new updated visual style and aesthetic to the new modes and power options, defeat the evil Mr. Dark and save the Electoons and their great Pro Tune and restore peace to the valley that he calls home. And while I still wait and hope for a sequel to either Rayman 3 or Rayman Legends in the near future, I will take this for the time being. And you can play the new edition title now in a digital format with a physical release for PlayStation and Switch set for release in June this year. We then received an all new look at the recently delayed entry of the new indie title from Yacht Club Games of Mina the Hollower that will have you as a small mouse named Mina, who is an inventor and hollower as she travels to the lands of Tenebrous Isle to figure out why her inventions of spark generators have gone out. And it looks like the follow-up to the studio's Golden Boy Shovel Knight was not a one-trick ordeal. I'll be well for try when this title releases sometime later this spring. Then one of the acclaimed titles indie games of a year or two ago has gotten a return in the form of a prequel, with a return to the world of Neva with the prologue. They'll explain how the main characters of Neva and Alba first met and on their incredible and dangerous journey that these two will set across that will build their bond into how we find them in the original title. And I look forward to this wonderfully visual art style and worth seeing how the story began for these two when the title releases next week on the 19th of February. Heading over to the next title that was available, we are heading to a location in a game that I feel we may be starting to see a lot of lately, but just sort of set in ancient feudal Japan with the title of Yako Shinobi Ops that will have you see you and 3 other players portray ninjas and sneak and kill your way through compounds and our fortresses and complete your mission as quickly and as quietly as possible. While I may feel the setting is starting to be overused, I'll say the concept's interesting and way more for try when the game launches sometime next year. Then with the title is based on the Korean novel known as The Bird That Drinks Tears, which I'm not gonna lie, that title does go hard. We have the unveiling of a new game of Project Windless that looks like a Dynasty Warriors based game, but you are playing as a buff humanoid chicken and are absolutely slowing through waves of enemies against a powerful leader looking to strike you down. And all sense of things, I'm interested by the primary lead alone. Maybe it's a look when it releases sometime very soon. Then we are blasting off to a galaxy far, far away as we are given an all new look at the upcoming new Star Wars Galactic Racer, as it seems we are playing a masked figure that will be proving who is the best racer in the galaxy as you battle and speed your way across courses seen in the universe of films, shows and novels, and visually it looks striking. I hope it brings that appeal many had with the original episode 1 pod racer games, but I guess we could find it with the tile speeds in the console sometime later this year. Then we're getting our License to Kill back out and renewed as we got an all new look at the upcoming 007 First Light game that will have you play as a young Bond as he's starting out as an ancient while be proving his worth into becoming the iconic spy that we know him for today. And from what I've seen of some of the iconic movesets from their Hitman games and updated extra elements, I have found this will be well worth a play, and every piece I've seen for this game is recent memory has me very excited for it. I'm definitely giving this a play when it does release from the 27th of May. For the next few titles, we were from a section that was dedicated to the studio of Konami that had a few announcements in focus, and we start off with the confirmation that the Volume 2 of the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection was on their way this year, and it seems they were very front heavy with the Volume 1, as this volume is very light, with the only titles confirmed being MGS4, Guns of the Patriots, and Peace Walker on the title, where I feel personally they could have added the likes of the Metal Gear Acid titles, Portable Ops, 5 Ground Zeroes, and Phantom Pain, and also the stretch depending on canonicity of Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, but I guess we'll take on what we can get, and maybe they can add them in before the title releases, or save those for Volume 3 when it drops on the 27th of August. But keeping things in the stealth genre, but mixing in the more zany cartoon aesthetic, we got an all new look at the game of Darwin's Paradox that will have you play as an octopus named Darwin as you try to escape back to the ocean for being turned into seafood, and it seems like a stealth game of Inside or Limbo mixed with the goofy nature of an MGS title or Octodad. It was confirmed with the presentation of a release date alongside a demo, giving us the nod to Snake himself when the title now set for release on April 2nd. As for the focus from stealth to all-out Metroidvania, we return to the popular series of Castlevania with a new title of Belmont's Curse that will have you take in the role of Trevor Belmont as you travel across medieval France in the late 15th century and defeat some powerful adversaries, including one Dracula himself. If I like any other entry of this side-scrolling series, then I'm all for it, and it will be given a go when this releases sometime later this year as well. Then the second last title given a focus from Konami at this presentation is bringing us back to a series that may have had a bit of a recent release, but the outcome is a lot more messy. But with a title that was given a new look after being unveiled and teased in a presentation 4 years ago, but we have an all-new entry of the Silent Hill series with a new entry of Townfall that has been developed in partnership with Annapurna Entertainment, and seems to be giving us a small British coastal town setting which has some interesting aesthetic, but is already unrealistic as there's no guns in Britain and should have been done with knives. But I'm very interested to see what comes of this entry releases sometime later this year. The final title from Konami shown at the event is an unveiling of a new RPG from the studio known as Rev Noir, which sees a strange phenomenon in relation to World of Light that falls fall that brings death to those that it touches, and will see us take on the role of a boy of amnesia who teams up with a special girl to have saved the world, and from her strange phenomenon has its nice flair and aesthetic, and it could have some appealing tale and gameplay narrative and focus, and could be worth a play when it releases on the console some point in the near future. The movie from Konami, there was a title I initially thought was a different franchise altogether, but then when it was unveiled what it was, I got so hyped for it. As revealed, we are getting an all-new game based on the action series of John Wick. Initially, my first instinct was this was a game based on the Kingsman franchise, which I also would have been hyped for in particular. And from the looks of the early gameplay and visuals, it actually looks like this maybe have some appeal and looks deadly. Plus, you have Keanu Reeves back for the role, so it's all coming together. Now I'm excited to play this title and release this sometime also in the near future, possibly close enough, but who knows. We are then jumping over to the studio of Bungie as they unveiled a look at their new multiplayer shooter of Marathon, a follow-up to the original title from 30 years ago, and will have you become a member of a certain faction to do battle and survive to look for supplies aboard this specific spacecraft. And I'm sure it'll have some nostalgia to it all, and could also provide a new wave of fans, with the title dropping very soon on the 5th of March. Then we retreat to an all-new extended look at the newest title from House Marquee of Seros that shows off some of the narrative, the setting of this strange planet, and the effects the planet has in terms of lighting, terrain, and enemies when the sun is shrouded in an eclipse. And I'm all for trying this and seeing what they took from Returnal and give it a quite deep appealing boost, and be giving this a try when it releases from the 30th of April. Then for the last of the focused fighting titles from the event, we are given some new look and update to the upcoming fighting title of Marvel Token Fighting Souls, where alongside the previously confirmed characters of Spidey, Cap, Ghost Rider, Iron Man, Storm, and Doom, this new trailer gave a tease of the upcoming single player narrative, as well as confirmation some of the X-Men are part of this roster, including already mentioned Storm, Magic, Danger, and of course Wolverine to the roster. That may have be growing more and more as the development moves on. I like the visual aesthetic, and I'm intrigued to see the full roster and story with this title, now set for release on August 6th of this year. Then after a bit of the usual PlayStation Plus updates, it was time to emphasize that Zeus, your son has returned once again, and bringing destruction of Olympus to a new high fidelity, as after months of speculation, it is finally unveiled that the remake of the original God of War titles are in the works, and will focus on the original Greek trilogy from the time being, and the original voice of Kratos is also coming back for this. While I expected that they were also going to have the prequels of Ascension as well as Ghosts of Sparta and Chains of Olympus getting the same treatment, I'm sure they could do a second remake trilogy in the works in that aspect as well, but I guess we will see in due time for more info on the first look. But either way, I've decided to give this a try when it does release. And wrapping up the event with one final game, they are staying with the previous game franchise, as we have an all new title set in the event of the trilogy, as we unveil the 2.5D Metroidvania style game of God of War Sons of Sparta, as you play as a much younger Kratos as he undergoes Spartan training in the Eragon alongside his brother Deimos, as you soon travel across the deadly fields of Sparta to rescue their friend and who hasn't returned. And it really seems like quite the adventure, and I'm all for sure giving this a try, with this being a surprise reveal and dropping on the day of the direct itself, which is quite a welcome surprise. And from that was all the state of play had to offer, and I can see where some of those more of the Nintendo Direct last week, and I enjoyed my time with both of them, as I felt both provide a lot of exciting titles for each system and be well worth giving a play and all, and hopefully some will have some crossplay to experience them when possible. But I would say both had their strengths and issues, but overall a solid state of play, but for once by Sony. But what do you make of these state of play? What games are you most excited for to play, and what did you hope to see at this unveil this event? Let me know what you think down below in the comments. We can talk about them there. As for the last of the stories for this week, is the usual fare like any other story of the week, as we have a bit of a selection of some hodgepodge news that don't have a lot of connections, but have some semblance of importance, from new castings, projects, dates, items, and shakeups that may have occurred over the last week. But we could delve into them here and see what you may have missed and what there is to offer in the future. So let's get into them. We start off in this week's hodgepodge with a focus of some casting news, and we are once again returning to the realm of the Norse gods for this story, as we're talking once more about the upcoming game adaptation based on God of War. Now, we have seen a fair few names for this title getting cast already, from Kratos, Odin, Thor, Ciri, and Heimdall, and like the case we will see a fair few more to go, but there is one that I have seen been a question in specifics, is the casting of one important member of this cast, and as with the focus of the young son of Kratos, or the boy, with Atreus. And that was finally announced on Monday of this week, as the role was finally casted with Chucky and Long Bright River star of Callum Vincent, who had been cast as the young child of the God of War. I can see it fit well in look and tone, and I feel it'll be beneficial for his career in the casting to this particular role, and hopefully we'll get a sense of his range and his performance as the series progresses, or how long they'll focus on the Norse era itself. But so far I think the casting of this series has been pretty solid so far, in some familiar and more newer faces overall. Now, I know for certain there is a lot of other names still from this title, and probably from the 2018 game as well, to get casted for this role. I'm sure they may cast everyone by the start of this filming some point in the next few weeks, but if I hear anything new about whoever else is left to be casted, I'll provide that in a later episode. Now for the focus of a new project adaptation. This one I meant to give a focus on last week, but seemed to have slipped my mind. But it looks like another classic fantasy book setting is getting an all-new treatment, a new attempt at an adaptation. As was announced, a new series adaptation based on the book series of Eragon will be in the works and be released at some point on the Disney+. Now, for those that are not familiar with this source material, particularly the first book, it tells of a farm boy named Eragon who comes across a mysterious rock in the mountains that turns out to be a dragon egg that hatches to a dragon named Saphira. Soon the two of them and a storyteller named Brom flee from the land when the evil king Galbatorix sends an army of monsters and creatures to capture the powerful egg. In the process, we'll discover that Brom is part of an ancient group of dragon riders that soon teach Eragon on the ways of the rider. Now, of course, this is not the first time this series has been adapted. At least we forget about the 2006 film adaptation that turned into quite the disaster in reception, if critically and financially. That may not have the most faithful telling of the first stories, but I'm sure with the right creatives, with the series being held by high potential and Superman and Lois showrunners Todd Hartman and Todd Helbing, budget, cast, and visuals, it may bring the beloved series a reality and be beloved overall. Now, at the moment, there's no official indication of when the series will be in the works or when we will see it for the moment, but once I hear anything new, then I'll provide that in a later episode. Well, I feel at this rate there may be something every week to find something when I can, but we are talking about the popular building brand of Lego once again. So I've talked about the confirmed and rumored from the Pocket Monsters, a new Mario Kart set, the Heroes of Hyrule, those K-pop demon hunters, and even the likes of that silly old bear and the big green ogre. Then I have to wonder what else may I have to talk about in sets. Well, initially I could have talked about the set that is on the way that will focus on the red-haired journalist and his faithful dog on a mission to space, or usually to find a golden unicorn or something like that. But we haven't got any confirmed focus image sets on it yet, but I will when it comes along. But instead we'll talk about a different kind of canine that's a bit more imaginative and adventurous, and they've unveiled a new planned set based on the lovable beagle of Snoopy and his bird friend Woodstock. Now, the set will consist of 2-in-1 build in some form as the first instance of Snoopy's red doghouse, with a small buildable typewriter of him writing his next story of fighting his arch enemy of the Red Baron. And then remove the doghouse and there's a little campfire set for the two to roast marshmallows, and the simple nature, and it looks really kind of charming. Now, the set is not too pricey, with it coming in at a nice €80, which is not bad for the set range and piece number, and I'm sure it'll be well worth a pickup for a nice little display when it releases a little later this year at the start of June. But overall, I will see when it comes out and hope for more new sets like this in the future with some decent price sets too, but I'm sure we'll be more sets to talk about when I update anything new comes along in following episodes. So maybe we can see that other one about the adventures of someone. Now, the focus of release dates. We have the one for this week. We have a selection of 2 in mind to focus on, and the first one may have been overdoing it, and I feel may have missed it from the recent State of Play, but this was unveiled before that event, as was announced that we have an all-new release date for the 5th title of the Dark Pictures anthology series of Directive 8020. The title now set for release on May 12th of this year. Now, this title has had a bit of a rocky release. The title was teased and unveiled back in 2022 with the post-credits of The Devil in Me, and then was unveiled for release in 2025, which was initially set for October 2nd, but had a delay due to some layoffs at the company of Supermassive, and I feel they probably wanted to focus on the release of The Fertile Nightmares. They were also working on that release the week later. But a mid-May release seems like a decent fit overall, as it gives some chance to appeal and maybe well worth return to the series, and hopefully provide some scares and uncertainty by its release, and then we can look forward towards the future to see what other aesthetic they may be delving into, but I guess we'll see by the release in about 3 months' time. But speaking of new dates, we have a confirmed official update to a project that was first hinted at a few weeks ago, but it may seem that we're getting full steam ahead. As was confirmed earlier this week, the planned 4th entry of the Mummy series, with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz returning back from the role, has got an official release date, with it now set for release on May 18th, 2028. I feel in a personal sense that it will fit well in time to give an idea of some time for that new Mummy film out in April to have its chance, and then followed up with a focused return to the beloved franchise, return of the leading duo. Now, I'm not fully sure when this will be set and if this will retcon any previous entries, because I've heard initially that the third movie of Tomb of the Dragon Empire may be retconned or something, but I have no idea. Either way, I'm all for checking this out when it does release, and I'm sure it will be a welcome return to this franchise when it does reawaken in the near future. And the last one of these stories is another focus of a film project and saying that had potential, but seems to be a little messy or of concern that it has great potential overall. As reported earlier this week, that a planned animated project at Sony that was set in the era to Spy by Thailand Spirits had essentially been shelved at the studio. Now, not much was fully known about this project, but the film was being helmed by Matt Brawley and was helped and being written by Rebecca Sugar, who both worked together on the animated series of Steven Universe. I believe also worked on some aspects of the Disney series of Amphibia, and they've been working on this for about 2+ years now. And it's a shame that the project cannot have the chance to see the light of day, as I feel it would have had some potential and seems appealing, but according to the studio in focus, it seems like the company said the project was not commercial enough, which seems to be a bit of a too early to judge. Going off the style, the character designs and the aspects could have gotten great potential, would have worked to give some love and respect to that country's lineage and history. Do I see it getting made? I could see it happening, and there seems to be a push online, like petitions and everything like that, for getting the chance to be made by the studio or from other studios in general. I feel like, case of anything, I feel like Pixar would definitely pick this up and give it a chance, because I know they would respect the hell out of the concept and like the lineage of countries. But I guess we'll have to see in the future. But if you hear anything that gives a chance, and if there's anything of an update, I'll provide that later episode. But what do you make of these stories? Do you think it's a solid casting for Atreus? Will you be watching the new Eragon adaptation? If you ever watched the original film take, what are your thoughts on it? Are you going to buy that new Snoopy Lego? What other brands and icons do you want to see get a set? Will you be picking up the new Dark Pictures title? Are you excited for the fourth Mummy movie? And do you feel the shelving of this project was necessary, or does it need a better chance to release or go to another studio? Let me know what you think down below of all these, and with that regards, that's all the news that we have for this week.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
And now with all of that, it ends episode 143 of Weird My Newsroom. I hope you enjoyed my ramblings for probably well over half an hour to maybe 40 minutes. Right, I'm going to fly through this conclusion stuff. I don't really have much to say in regards. Anyway, case, reviews. They're coming along eventually, case. I'm writing them as I speak. I'm trying to get process, juggling a lot of stuff at the moment. The last 2 episodes of this has been taking me a bit long time. There's a lot of procrastination. There's a lot of stuff going on the last few days. I was like, it wasn't a pretty sight. But I will get around to those in the particular instance and get to doing reviews for, Last of Us, long form stuff, the snack size box office ones. I've recorded one for the Muppets as well, so it's a quick snack size one for that. I will probably do a recording. I'd probably do a long form one for Goat. I did see that on the weekend. I also saw 20 Years Later, The Bone Temple, a couple days ago, or a couple hours ago today. So yeah, I'll give my thoughts maybe on long forms of those. Maybe the 20 years one I'll have to see, but yeah, I'll give my thoughts on those ones. Other variations of lengths and shows and other things that has been, and other things that will get the reviews and stuff, and some award season ones. But you get the idea. Gameplay wise, the DK Bananas video will go up eventually. I just keep forgetting I have to do it. I'm going to start streaming the next couple days as well, hopefully, and maybe I'll hold off and start when Requiem comes out. I've considered maybe a case that it is out next week and always start with that, or I can start with some other things like that, or maybe start a fly through Resident Evil 2 or something. But I'll figure it out in the case of things. And then I get to Star Wars, I get to Mario Wonder, I get to Cyberpunk normal gameplay stuff, and then maybe stream them, as well as a case I get to streaming Hollow Knight and everything like that. So look forward to those. I'll probably drop a little commentary thing on there and say to my friends and stuff that were on socials that I'll probably start streaming. Then the case of long form stuff. The case instance, the long form video of the rewatchathon is coming. The AI choice video I promised someone deeply I care about is also coming. The anticipated media stuff is coming. The horror most boar is coming. Everything in the particular long form variations are all coming eventually as well. Anticipated media stuff, they're all going to come eventually. I just need to figure out the timing process and get the things writing. So look forward to those, and I apologize for the delay on just this being the same thing over and over every week. But I should leave it there for now. So you've got all this content, you want to see more from me more frequently, then simply like and subscribe. I upload new stuff every single week. I'm aiming for 750 to 1,000 subs by the end of this year, so any support would be greatly appreciated, and I hope to reach that goal by then. Let me know your thoughts on everything discussed this week down below in the comments from the new releases, trailers, and news stories as well, and just give me your thoughts on anything that was released this week. If you want to get 10% off Pure Crack for yourself, then you can use my code Sam Harrison. That's all caps, one word. Down in the link in the description, you can get the link to Pure Crack and get yourself some nice tasty beverage that'll keep you energized and keep you energized in this sort of somewhat cold period, but we're heading into spring, so look forward to that. But in this regards now, I'm going to end the episode there for now. So as always, you all stay wonderful people. Have a great day every day. Do many great things, keeping you because no one else can do what you do, and take care of yourself because mental health is very important, and check on people because you never know who needs it. In the case, I've been your host, Sam, of course, and I shall see you all in the next episode. So take care, and I'll see you later.